Hey guys, welcome back to Hawk Talk. Today we're going to be talking about players who we think are going to have a breakout season and are going to do really good for their team. So first we'll start it off with Santosh, and he'll give us his top three breakout players for this upcoming season.
Okay, so for my three breakout players, it's not ranked, but these are just three players that I think could have an interesting breakout season. The first one I will talk about is Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase was picked in the top 10 in the in this past draft by the Bengals, and I think that when you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback who's coming back from an injury, we've seen like training camp videos and like mini camp videos, and he's looked pretty good. People are saying that he's around 85% right now, but I think by the time the season starts, he'll be ready to go 100%. And they didn't draft Penei Sewell, but I think they did actually draft an O lineman or two in later in the draft. So they did get help for Joe Burrow. Maybe not Penei Sewell, but I think they still did, and they still got Jamar Chase, which is important. Um, that being said, the connection with the connection between those two and just having Zach Taylor in for another year will probably help them. And Zach Taylor's probably on the hot seat this year, so he's going to be doing his best, and that's why I think Jamar Chase is going to have a really good year this first year. Um, and the second player I'll talk about is Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones hasn't really had a great season yet. If we're talking about his past couple of seasons, he's dealt with injuries, and he's also dealt with just bad O line, but also at the same time he's not been that good himself, right? So his decision making hasn't been that great. Um, he's got a good deep ball game, but I think he needs to develop in terms of like actually staying in the pocket and delivering, like making his reads, going like first read, second read, third read, and then scanning the field and actually using his arm talent, because he has a lot of arm talent, so he needs to figure out how to use it. I think that Joe Judge is a really good coach actually, and I think that that can help him develop into a better player, along with getting Kenny Galladay in free agency, who's a very good player at the same time. So Daniel Jones is going to have a good year as well. Um, I think, and then my third player was Brian Burns, defensive end for the Panthers, and I think Brian Burns is actually one of the most underrated rookies uh, from the not the rookies, but a rookie from like 2 years ago, I think, and he was really underrated. He actually had decent production, but I think that a second year with Matt Rule and you know just that team is going in the right direction. The Panthers got a new quarterback, and I think that once that winning culture starts being built in Carolina, that will ultimately help their defense develop too. And they added some pieces on both sides of the ball this offseason, and I think that's gonna ultimately help Brian Burns, who's actually had decent production, but he's gonna do even better this upcoming season, and people are gonna recognize him for how good he is.
Yeah, I think you actually have a pretty solid list there. Something that I want to talk about on your list is Daniel Jones. I think, like you were saying, they got some good players on both side of the ball. I think something he's also good at is scrambling, in the sense that he does have a good amount of speed, or enough to get him out of danger when he needs to. So I think he has the potential to be a good quarterback. And I just think this year, with like the right coaching, the right receivers, and staying healthy, he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like with Saquon Barkley coming back from his injury last year, Daniel Jones is going to have like another target to throw to, and so their run game is going to hopefully come back to being a solid part of their team. And yeah, like Santosh said, being under a good coaching staff would really help Daniel Jones in making better decisions and staying in the pocket and taking the hit and just making great plays. So. Yeah. So Saaketh, you can go next with yours.
Okay. So I think I have three players that I think are gonna have a good year. The first player I want to talk about is Joe Burrow. Obviously, before his injury last year, he was having a really great year. If he didn't get injured, he probably would have got offensive rookie of the year instead of Justin Herbert. He was, I think, on pace to break the passing record. I don't know, but he was on pace to break like one record. I know. So I think he will be good enough to go. Like Santosh was saying with Jamar Chase, I think Joe Burrow will be good to go by the start of the season. And even though they didn't get Panay Sewell, which I think is a questionable decision, I think they should have gotten Panay Sewell to help Joe Burrow, but he also does have a good amount of weapons with Jamar Chase and stuff. So I think he's a great quarterback. He has great talent, and he's from what we saw last year, he was doing great. He was really good. So I think this year, if he can just stay healthy, he will be as good as he was last year, maybe even better. My next player on my list is Najee Harris. He was drafted by the Steelers in the first round. I think he went number 24 this past draft. And the Steelers, they struggled a lot, to say the least, this past year in the run game. They didn't have a running back that they were pleased with James Conner, and that led to Big Ben having to throw it a bunch of times a game. And I don't think he was either really good at that or really bad. He was pretty inconsistent. So I think with Najee Harris getting drafted, they can rely on him more, and they can also get the pressure off Big Ben a little bit. They can get the pressure off of him so that he's not getting overworked. So I think Najee Harris, with the right method and with the right coaching, he could be posed for a really good year here. And my final player on my list is Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. So last year he kind of split games with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is now on the Washington football team. But from what we saw under pressure, he's not the best. I would say he needs some work when he's under pressure. But I mean, that was his rookie year, so he still has a long way to go. But with the Miami Dolphins being trying to contend for winning or becoming second in their division behind the Bills, I think he is kind of in an awkward position right now where he's a second-year player, so he should make a good jump from year one to year two. But if he doesn't, then that could put him in some trouble with his job as starting quarterback, because the Dolphins want to get second place in their division. So he does have weapons, though. I'll say that he does have a good amount of weapons. He does have the right thing. He has everything he needs to be in a good spot. He has Matt Breida at running back. Mike Gesicki is a tight end. And they also have a good wide receiver core with Devontae Parker and whatnot. So I think if he stays healthy and if he gets the right coaching, then Tua Tagovailoa will also have a good year. So yeah, let's open that up for discussion.
So
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Abhi.
So yeah, I really agree with you especially with Tua Tagovailoa, especially because we were talking about this before we started, and we said that since the Dolphins they're kind of like the Seahawks, they want to win now and kind of build for the future. They kind of have that mentality right now, so that could possibly lead to Tua Tagovailoa getting traded if he doesn't perform at the top level that we saw in college that he used to perform in. So yeah, like you said, he is in a tricky situation right now.
Honestly, yeah. I think, yeah, those are all good choices. But the one that I'm most interested about is Najee Harris, especially because he's, well, rookie running backs on good teams that usually don't have good running games is like a tricky combo, right? Like Steelers won games, but it's not like they had like one of the worst rushing attacks in the whole league with good running back talent too. It's not like Benny Snell is not not a scrub or anything, right? So James Conner just couldn't stay healthy. It wasn't like he wasn't doing good when he was healthy, but I think it was good enough to the point where the Steelers could win as much as they wanted to. They wouldn't have needed to draft Najee Harris in the first place. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think like if Najee Harris, if that Steelers O line can perform well, and I'd be really interested to see how the coaching staff actually helps the run game get along, because it is only really one running back, and you can't just turn one of the worst rushing attacks into one of the best rushing attacks with just one running back. So
Yeah, I think also this is kind of like James Robinson's situation last year with the Jaguars. I mean, in general, their offense wasn't good, but I think if Najee Harris is good enough, I think he can bring up that rushing attack just to a level enough that makes them feel comfortable and feel happy about what they're doing. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Santosh. So yeah, going on to our final list for the day, we have Abhi with his top 3 breakout players.
Okay, so for me, I have 2 Seahawks players and 1 player that is on the Atlanta Falcons, and that being Kyle Pitts. I feel like Kyle Pitts is going to have a really great season because he is like a really huge person. He's 6'6". He ran a 4.4 for 40-yard dash, which is insane for someone that big. We talked about how DK Metcalf is huge and how he ran really fast. I mean, Kyle Pitts is pretty much the same speed. When you think about it, it's really not that tenth of a second isn't really going to change anything. So he's a really explosive player, and he's a deep threat, which you don't really see that often in tight ends. I mean, you see Travis Kelce and those big name wide receiver, tight ends, but they're most like they usually just muscle through people. They don't really go deep that often. So Kyle Pitts is going to be a great deep threat in the NFL coming into his first season, which I believe would really help the Atlanta Falcons after losing Julio Jones to have another deep threat. So yeah, and my next player is Trey Brown. He is going to be a rookie this season for the Seattle Seahawks, and I kind of feel like Trey Brown is he's a really good player from what I've seen in his college highlights and stuff. And he also seems like he has a pretty level head, and so that really need that in Seattle because as you know, like we traded away Shaquille Griffin, so now we really need a cornerback that can block those big receivers. So we kind of need Trey Brown to succeed, and I think he will because I feel like he has a level head and he seems like a smart player. And my second player is Jordan Brooks, also from the Seahawks. He's going into his second season this year. And last year he didn't make too many plays. He was kind of still learning the scheme and everything. So I kind of feel like Jordan Brooks would do really well this season after being in the Seahawks defense for 1 year. And yeah. So what do you guys think?
Yeah. I definitely think with what you're saying with Kyle Pitts is, a great. I think that definitely would work. They do have Calvin Ridley as, a great wide receiver, even though they traded Julio Jones away. So I think they won't have to rely too much on Kyle Pitts, because he's still a rookie, he's still learning, because they all still have Calvin Ridley, but he definitely will be a help in the offense. And I think Jordan Brooks last year, I think he was good, and especially with the uncertainty of KJ Wright returning to the Seahawks, Jordan Brooks definitely has some pretty big shoes to fill, and I think he's up to the task. From what I've seen last year, he's a really good linebacker, and I think he will be able to fill up the task. And I think Trey Brown is also posed for a good year.
Yeah. I like the Jordan Brooks and Kyle Pitts take. When you lose a guy like Julio Jones in Atlanta, who was the #1 receiver there, and he was pretty much like he was their #1 guy, right? Like Calvin Ridley was the #2 to Julio Jones, and I think Calvin Ridley is definitely capable of being a #1. But I think this year we're really going to see Kyle Pitts involved in the offense first year, because if the Falcons took him top 5, then they really want him doing some special things there. So that's one thing, and I think that the interesting thing about Trey Brown is not that he's short. That's not why he fell in the draft, because we've seen so many short corners do good and like been taken earlier. But the thing is that he's still got some things to improve on, like to mechanics and stuff. So like that's the reason why he fell to the 4th round. And I think he'll have a great impact on special teams this year. There's just a lot of talent ahead of him at that cornerback spot this year. There's a lot of competition, so I think he might slip a little in the depth chart. But if he does good on special teams this year, maybe he'll have a good season next year.
Yeah, kind of adding on to what you said, Santosh, I feel like Trey Brown is a good player as far as I can tell, but he has a lot to improve. Like he could be a really good corner this year, or he might need some time to develop into a great corner next year or the year after that. So like the Seahawks say that they want to win now, and I feel like with some players that could work. Like DK Metcalf, he made an impact right away, right out the gate in his first season. But some players need a little bit more time to develop into the scheme and kind of learn the ins and outs of playing at a high level. So
Trey Brown I think he does have that competitive spirit, and I think he knows what the stakes are at the cornerback position. I think he knows what he needs to do. But I know that Pete Carroll really likes that competitive spirit and that wanting to play right away and wanting to, make an impact. Pete Carroll is definitely familiar with that. He definitely enjoys that. So I guess we'll just have to see. So yeah, that's it for Hawk Talk this week, guys. If you guys did like this video, then let us know and drop a like. Will anyone else have anything else to add? Abhi, Santosh?
I think that's it.
Okay, thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Go Hawks!